2 police cars parked outside my house, blue lights flashing, while a CPS worker held a clipboard, waiting to interrogate me about my own daughter. My neighbor smiled from her porch, watching cops question me about child endangerment, as if she hadn't personally called this in herself. I'm Rachel Simmons, single mom to Mia, 9, who uses a wheelchair after a car accident left her legs paralyzed 2 years ago. Our HOA president, Diane Whitmore, ruled Maple Ridge like her personal kingdom, fining anyone whose lawn dared grow 1 inch too tall. Diane never liked me, ever since I questioned her unexplained landscaping budget increase during a community meeting 8 months earlier. When Mia's wheelchair ramp went up last spring, Diane inspected it 3 times, muttering about property values and curb appeal violations. I assumed she'd eventually accept it, since federal law protected disability accommodations. But Diane wasn't someone who accepted losing. Diane left a citation on my door. Wheelchair ramp exceeds HOA guidelines. Remove within 30 days or face daily fines. I showed her the ADA exemption clause buried in our own bylaws, expecting an apology, but she just smirked coldly. Rules are rules, she said, snapping a photo of the ramp like she was building a case against me. That night, someone slashed my garden hose and left a note. Fix your eyesore or we'll fix it for you. I reported the vandalism, but Diane insisted I probably did it myself for sympathy. Loud enough for neighbors to hear, Diane called an emergency board meeting, presenting doctored photos claiming Mia's ramp blocked emergency vehicle access to our street. I brought fire department records proving access was never obstructed, but Diane dismissed them, calling my evidence conveniently timed. She proposed a new rule: no ramps exceeding 4 feet without board approval, clearly targeting Mia's medically necessary 5-foot ramp. Neighbors I'd known for years suddenly avoided eye contact, afraid of becoming Diane's next fining target if they sided with me. Only my elderly neighbor, Mr. Castillo, quietly slipped me his phone number, whispering, "Diane did this to me once too." He told me Diane had forced his late wife's mobility scooter storage shed removed, calling it unsightly, years before she passed. I started recording every interaction with Diane, sensing this wasn't really about rules, but something far more personal. Diane began patrolling my street nightly, photographing Mia's ramp from her car, timestamps proving obsessive, targeted surveillance. My daughter overheard Diane telling another mom, "That family doesn't belong in a neighborhood like ours." Through our thin fence, Mia asked me, tears welling, "Mommy, is my wheelchair making people hate us?" My heart shattered hearing those innocent words. I tried appealing to the full HOA board, but Diane controlled the agenda, burying my complaint under unrelated landscaping votes. A sympathetic board member, Grace, pulled me aside afterward, admitting Diane threatened to expose her parking violation if she supported me. I realized Diane wasn't just controlling. She was quietly blackmailing anyone who might challenge her authority over Maple Ridge. Desperate, I emailed our HOA's management company directly, only to learn Diane's cousin worked there, deleting complaints before review. Every avenue I tried seemed mysteriously blocked, like Diane had built invisible walls around herself years before I arrived. Then Grace texted me secretly, "Check Diane's own home inspection records from 2019. You'll want to see this." I filed a public records request, hands trembling, wondering what Diane had hidden behind her perfect, rule-obsessed reputation. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Diane went quiet, and I almost believed she'd finally moved onto someone else's yard. Mia started school again, laughing with friends, and I let myself breathe, hoping this ugly chapter was truly over. I even received a small basket of flowers on my porch, and signed, and wondered if maybe Diane felt guilty after all. Mr. Castillo warned me not to relax. Diane never quits, he said. She's just reloading, waiting for the right moment. The records request finally arrived, revealing Diane had installed an illegal wheelchair ramp for her own mother in 2019, unreported. She'd fought the county for months to keep that ramp, using the exact ADA protections she now denied applying to Mia. I stared at the paperwork, stunned. Realizing Diane understood disability rights perfectly, she simply refused to extend them to us. Before I could act, Diane struck first. She called Child Protective Services, claiming Mia's wheelchair posed a documented safety hazard. CPS worker Angela Reyes arrived at my door that same afternoon. My hook began, clipboard ready, my stomach dropping instantly. Diane had reported that our ramp lacked railings, that Mia frequently fell, and that I refused necessary safety modifications. Every single claim was fabricated. Our ramp had railings, Mia never fell, and I'd begged the HOA for modification approval repeatedly.
Angela interviewed Mia gently,
asking simple questions, while my daughter confidently explained her ramp, her routine, her happy little life. I showed Angela the citation Diane issued, the ADA bylaw exemption, and photos proving railings had existed since installation day. Angela's expression shifted from procedural to visibly frustrated, flipping through evidence that contradicted Diane's entire complaint, sentence by sentence. This looks like harassment, not neglect, Angela finally said, closing her folder, clearly unimpressed by Diane's manufactured emergency. Word spread fast through Maple Ridge that Diane had called CPS on a disabled child over a wheelchair ramp. Neighbors who'd stayed silent began messaging me privately, sharing their own stories of Diane's petty tyranny over the years. Grace, emboldened, forwarded me an email chain proving Diane pressured our former board president into resigning 2 years prior. A pattern emerged. Diane systematically targeted anyone vulnerable, elderly, disabled, or new, then buried complaints before residents organized against her. I contacted a local journalist,
Sam Ortiz,
who'd previously covered predatory HOA practices affecting disabled homeowners across the state. Sam requested an interview, and I agreed, finally ready to expose exactly what Diane had done to my daughter. The night before the interview, Diane left a voicemail, her voice suddenly sweet, offering to quietly drop everything if I stayed silent. I recorded that call too, adding it to a growing folder of evidence documenting months of harassment and abuse of power. Mr. Castillo agreed to testify publicly, finally ready to speak after years of silent fear over Diane's retaliation. Grace confirmed she'd attend the emergency board meeting Diane scheduled, this time bringing her own documented proof of blackmail. Angela from CPS officially closed our case, stating clearly in writing that the complaint was unsubstantiated and appeared retaliatory. Sam's article, titled HOA President's Secret Ramp Exposes Years of Disability Discrimination, published online the morning of the meeting. By noon, the article had thousands of shares, Diane's name trending locally, comments flooding in from other former victims statewide. I walked into the meeting hall, Mia's hand in mine, feeling terrified yet finally, powerfully, completely ready. The meeting room overflowed with neighbors, many holding printed copies of Sam's article, waiting silently for Diane's arrival. Diane entered confidently, unaware the room had already turned against her, still expecting total control over tonight's agenda. I stood first, presenting time-stamped photos, the CPS closure letter, and Diane's own hidden 2019 ramp permit documents. Gasps rippled through the crowd as I revealed Diane had used ADA protections privately while denying them publicly to Mia. Grace stepped forward next, Reading aloud the blackmail email Diane sent threatening to expose her fabricated parking violation. Mr. Castillo spoke last, voice shaking, describing how Diane forced his dying wife's mobility equipment removed years earlier. Diane tried interrupting, calling everything lies and personal vendettas, but her voice cracked under the weight of true evidence. Diane's own son, silent until now, stood and admitted she'd hidden his childhood disability out of shame for decades. The confession silenced the room, revealing why she'd weaponized disability rules, transferring her own buried shame onto us instead. A board member motioned for immediate suspension pending investigation, and this time, no one blocked or buried the vote. The room erupted in applause as the suspension passed unanimously, stripping Diane of her presidency on the spot. Angela's CPS report, entered into official record, confirmed Diane's complaint had been deliberately false, filed purely out of malice. Sam recorded everything for a follow-up article, capturing Diane's stunned, humiliated face as her reign visibly collapsed before everyone. Security quietly escorted Diane outside as neighbors, once too afraid to speak, finally thanked me for exposing years of abuse. Mia squeezed my hand tightly, whispering, "We won, Mommy," as cheers echoed through the crowded, triumphant meeting hall.
Diane Fay for mồ hoa removal.
A pending harassment lawsuit, and a county investigation into her own unpermitted ramp violation. Grace became interim president, immediately updating bylaws to explicitly protect disability accommodations from future targeted harassment or retaliation. Mia's ramp still stands proudly today, railings gleaming, a permanent reminder that love and truth outlast every petty tyrant.